So now we want to look at conditional selection of data in data frames. And this is a common problem that you will face when you're dealing with data. For example, in a business, your boss might be interested in knowing how many people bought items above maybe 5,000, or even maybe how many of their clients or how many of the customers are aged above 25. So those kind of metrics might be very, very important, especially in a business environment. And that is why you might want to present that, and you want to do it automatically in Python using pandas. And fortunately, pandas allows you to do that. And this is akin to the select function and where function in SQL. But here, we're going to use a series of conditions. And you remember from our previous Python introduction to Python, we learned about greater than, equals than, such kind of operation. So the first thing I want us to do is look at that. And let me just create a subheading for that. And I copied it, so feel free to pause the video and paste. And data, yep. So that's it. So the first thing that I want us to look at is we have got this set of data, and I want us to ask ourselves how many, select a country where the amount of coups is more than or equal to 5. So to do that, we first of all just type the name of our data frame, and then select that column by doing df again dot the name of the data frame, the column name. And then remember from your Python, greater than is that sign, so that is more than or equal to 5. So this one will return the number of check the data frame. So what this function is doing is going to check your data frame, which is df, and then it goes to the column coups, and then it asks itself which of the data frame or data points within this column are greater than or equal to 5. So when we run that, we get 3 values. So it means Nigeria has got 8 coups. That's logical. Ethiopia 5, which is exactly 5. Chad 7. So you can see all the returns are greater than or equal to 5. So we can narrow down this condition to greater than or equal to, let's say, 7. And I expect it to return Nigeria and Chad, because Nigeria has 8, Chad has 7. So as expected, you can see it has returned there too. Equally, we might ask ourselves to return the data points where, or the countries where the coup is maximum, or the country with the maximum number of coup. So we can do that by simply following this code. Just type it with me. It's almost the same as this, but now equal to df. And remember the way we did it, just the type coups. And what you need to do here is just dot maximum, and then opening and closing. Once you do this, run it, you realize that the maximum one is Nigeria with a maximum of 8 coups. So it returns the whole of this column. So sometimes you might just be interested in not knowing the other details. So maybe you just want to know which country and which colonizer has got the highest number of coups. So to do that, we can simply copy this. Let's modify that. And then before we add these coups here, before we add the amount of, or the number of coups, we can simply add this condition here, and then in the first one is knowing the country, and then comma colonizer to know the country and the colony. And I think I'm getting an error, so let me check. This is this. Oh, and then here df comma dot maximum, then df cos equal to, so let me start with this. This is correct. Colonizer is correct. Is correct. Okay, we need another here, and this should be give us the right. So you can see it has returned the country and the corresponding colonizer. So that might be important when you're doing analysis. Maybe you're asking yourself, how does the type of colony or the name of the colony or the former colony affects the number of coups in the previous states in Africa? So that's a good analytics. So that is to do a maximum or a conditional selection. So now I want us to look at something else known as indexing, and let me just add that. So indexing is basically how each of the data points are labeled. So in most cases, this is important when you're accessing the data uniquely. And the first thing that I want to do is just type df.index, and it will return the index. So if you look at this data here, you realize that we have got the country independence. So basically from our Excel, we had 5 columns, but you realize that there is this other column that is numeric, this 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is the index of the data frame. It's automatically generated by pandas. So if you do that and you select it, you realize that it's basically arranged starting from 0 to 11. So as you can guess, 11 is the last data point, which is basically the number of data points in our data set. So instead of making it numbers, you can change it to maybe the value you want. So in this case, I want to change it to independence year. So to do that, there's a function in Python called setIndex. So you can do df.setIndex and opening, and then select what you want. So I'm going to do independence. So I'm making the independence column to be the index and not the previous one. So as you can guess, so now our independence column is now the index. Think of it like a unique value, which is not, because you know that some countries might have the same year or same date of independence. So you can't use this, but maybe you can use it for another unique value. So now you realize that if I do df, it gives me the original data frame, but here it has changed it. So to make sure that this is permanent, so that it returns it, then you want to do df, or instead of typing, let me just copy the original one here, but now you add another argument here. So by the way, whatever you're adding is known as argument. So you add in place equal to true, and this one will make sure that it changes the df or the index permanently. So now it's permanent. Even if I type df, I'm gonna have it permanent. It's not changing. So with this now, you can access values by using the location attribute in pandas. So the way it works is do df.loc. So basically this tells you which data or which index to locate, and it accepts square bracket. And now I can set please return maybe data point where the independence date was this year, and I'm just gonna copy it. So since it's a string, I'm gonna copy it, and I expect it to return Angola. So once I do that, you can see it has returned the values for Angola, colonizer Portugal, coups 1, successful 0, and that corresponds to whatever we have here. So now you realize that now you can access your data point using a different way, and that is something that you want to use. So if you want to return back to the original, you realize that this is your data frame right now. If you want to revert back, all you need to do is do df.reset index, and then do in place equal to true. So once I do that, you realize that we go back to our original data frame, but now it has prioritized index before the country, because we have kind of given it information that the index can be used as in the independence here can also be used as index. So it's now becoming the first compared to the previous one where the country was the first. So you can see the difference. Okay, so the last thing I want us to learn is look at try another value or another column. So I'm going to use the colonizer index. So as you can remember, let me just copy the original one so that we don't spend more time here. So you can copy this, reuse that code, and then make it set index. This is going to be colonizer. So we're going to make colonizer to be the index, and if you do dx, you can see now the colonizer is the index. So this one gives you a very cool feature. Now you can basically ask, you can write a code to return all the countries where the colonizer was Britain. So this is something that is very useful if you're doing a lot of analytics. So we are basically using the index as a hash key where it returns all the values associated with it. So to do that, you can just do df, can now do df.lock and now ask it to return all the values where the colonizer was Britain. And you can see it returns Kenya and Nigeria, which is true if you look at your data. You can do the same for French. I think that's going to be Senegal and Chad. And we can do the same for Portugal. I think that's going to be Angola and Mozambique. So that is the basic analytics you can do with these functions. So please feel free to like the video and also subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend about this cool stuff we are doing here. Until next time, let's catch up on the next part of this